everyone, it's Kat and today is my June wrap up. It's been a very busy month. I read 9 books overall. I cannot believe how many I've read. Gone were the days when I was like, oh, 5 books in a month. You know, that I've read 5 books. Oh my god, so many. And I read 9. I'm like, shit. I had a reading slump like May sometime. And when I came out of that slump, it was like I could not read fast enough. So I'm going to go through which ones I read in order of when I read them. First one I read in June was Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer by Rick Riordan. Magnus is the son of a Norse god, but the problem is he dies. The chapter titles, Rick Riordan manages to make it also dramatic and makes you want to read what's going to happen next. I'd never read a book about Norse gods before, so I was a bit hesitant at first. I'm usually with all these Greek stories, I'm into those. But this one I wasn't sure, and all I know is of Thor, the movies, but I really enjoy this. Rick Riordan always has this easy way of telling a story and it just sucks you in. I found him hilarious, and I know a few people were commenting on Goodreads that, oh, it sounds too similar to Percy Jackson and Jason Grace. And Magnus was a lot less irritating than Percy was to me. I love the way Magnus Chase talked and how witty he was and how he just came up with these jokes just randomly. There were like a lot of moments that made me roll my eyes and thought, oh my god, this is so cheesy. There was some parts that made me go, what the actual fuck is going on in this? If you haven't already picked this up, I really think you should do. Even if you're not keen on Rick Riordan's other stuff, I think you should give this a shot. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Next I read was Ink and Bone by Rachel Caine. I actually finished this on audiobook. It was so much easier. I preferred the narration. It made the characters feel so much more alive. I did enjoy the story. It was so intense, and at some points I was just like biting my nails with like nervous tension. I couldn't, some of it was just killing me. There's so much war and violence, and there's a bit of romance in there. The snark that Jess comes out with is just, it's so refreshing as well. Like, she doesn't skim on the violence and the gore, and there is a lot of tension going on between the characters. So I rated this 4 out of 5 stars as well, and I look forward to reading the sequel. I heard that the sequel isn't from Jess's point of view, which kind of bums me out a bit because I really liked him. And another one by Rachel Caine, I read MidnightBytes, which is a collection of short stories to do with the Morganville Vampires series. I can't remember if there's like 25 or 30 short stories in this. A lot to do with Merlin and Shane and Michael and Eve. I will admit I didn't read every single story. There were about maybe 4 of them I skipped. Most of the ones that I was interested in were from Merlin's point of view, seeing his backstory, and also Shane's are always a good delight to read. And if you have loved Morganville Vampires and you haven't already read this, you will not be disappointed, because there are some really sweet, funny, intense stories in this, and yeah, I recommend it like crazy. Come on, people. And I rated this 4 out of 5 as well. Next one I read was The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. It's kind of a complex story, because I found on the back where it says, though they try to fight it, they can't help but fall in love. That's very misleading to me, because when I got it I thought, oh, is it going to be some sort of insta-love thing? You know, are they just going to, she's going to get him as a slave and then suddenly fall in love with him? And I'm just like, okay. But I'm halfway through it and I'm going, when's the love supposed to start? Are they supposed to be in love already? Like, what's going on? But in any case, I read this really fast, but it wasn't really a story that made me scream my love for it. I will be reading the sequel, and I've heard that the rest of the series is better. I actually did prefer the last few chapters of this, where things get a bit more intense. Aaron's so smug, and then Kestrel just comes along and wipes the floor with him. It's like, no, actually, I'm kicking your ass at this. So I love the fact that, you know, she's one of those kick-ass girls that isn't bitchy. You get a lot of like what they call strong female characters that are actually just stuck up and bitchy and just could do with lightening up. You can be a warrior, you can be intense and strong a person without being so unlikable. But I found that I did like Kestrel, and she went through so much crap that Aaron had no chance of getting her good side. So yeah, if you haven't read this, you really should. This is actually the American copy that I got while I was over there, and I keep seeing the sequel over here where it's just not the same size, and I need to get the American version of the sequel. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars as well. Also, I've got some written reviews for these books, so I'll put the link in the description for like if you want to read them or not. Okay, so the other book that I read was The Trials of Apollo, the Hidden Oracle by Rick Riordan. Now this one is a gem. I absolutely love this. It was freaking hilarious. Apollo was one of my favourite characters when introduced in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, I believe he was in. This time he's being blamed for what happened at the end of Heroes of Olympus. Now if you haven't read those series, I don't think it really matters because they do mention things that happened, but it's not like in an in-depth spoilery way. It's more like they give hints to what happened in the past. I mean, it's advice to read the others, but I'm not saying you have to. Apollo has been punished by his father Zeus and sent to Earth as a human boy of 16. He comes across this girl named Meg who acts as kind of his guide, and obviously Percy's around to help, and when he goes to Camp Half-Blood you do see some of the characters that you wouldn't necessarily hear about in the other books, so that's nice. There were moments where Apollo was very sarcastic and very self-centered and just selfish, but then there were moments where you would generally see behind those moods and he would be sensible and caring and just a nice guy. I can't wait for book 2. I did read it in about 2 or 3 days, so that shows it. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. The next one I read was The Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury. This one I started quite months ago. Anyway, so I mentioned this in my Goodreads currently reading list. I read it in like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. It was quite a long read, but I did enjoy the last few chapters or more. It took ages for me to really get into it. It was kind of a bit boring at first. I really did enjoy it in the end, and I will definitely pick up the second one, though it's not high on my priorities, so who knows. It's about Twyla, who is blessed by a god where her blood is poison to other people, so if they touch her they will die instantly. But it's interesting because a secret is unveiled and she discovers that things aren't as what they seem, and there's all this love triangle going on. I didn't like the guy that she was dating, but I did like the prince. I don't know what it is about me, but I always, if there's a prince in a story, I will always aim for the prince. Weird like that. I don't know. I didn't like Leaf, so Life. I never know how you say his name. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. And I finally got around to finishing In the Afterlife. It only took me like 4 months, but never mind. Actually, after I did push through 150 pages, I did finally get into the story. I think it didn't really click for me until 200 onwards. I felt like 535 pages could have been 400 pages because there was a lot of stuff where I was just not interested and it was just taking too long to get to anything interesting. I really enjoyed the Darkest Minds was like the best one for me. Never Fade was meh. This one was better than Never Fade, not as good as Darkest Minds. I mean, I don't want to say too much because it's pretty spoilery if you haven't read the series already, but I will just say I really enjoyed the last section of it. I was biting my nails, I was on the edge of my seat, I was like, come on. And Ruby is one of my favourite characters, along with Liam, who at one point I was just I was frustrated with them because there's always an on and an off relationship with them, and it's just unbelievable how many times they argue over nothing. So I'm gonna miss these guys. It's just sad that it's over. And I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Next one I read was Paperweight by Meg Haston. I actually got this last year at Summer in the City and I finally got around to it. Thank you, TBR Pod. I will admit, if I had known what this story was roughly about, I might not have bought it because I find it very hard to relate to these people. Now, I had to kind of just think of it as a fiction. I know the author had done a lot of research, but I had to think of it purely as fiction and not think, oh, this actually happens to people, whether, you know, there's truth wound in with fiction or not. It just made me kind of sad and irritated, but mostly sad that this happens. Stevie is in a, I guess, rehab center thing for eating disorders, and she is the most obnoxious, self-centered person at the beginning, but then throughout the story she gradually opens up and become, you know, you can see her changing and getting better, and that was when I did eventually warm to her. But jeez, she irritated me so much. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who I would recommend this to. I guess I should say there's a trigger warning, because if you've got an eating disorder, this might not be so good for you. But also I think it could be eye-opening to many people that don't understand, you know, the illnesses, or haven't even read anything like this. If you like that sort of stuff, I do like books where they're in like a mental hospital or something. I mean, there's a lot of heavy descriptions. Ooh, stomach turn. It was not very nice to read. But yeah, I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. And finally, after many attempts, I tried this again, and I read this for the TBR Takedown 4.0, which I never did a wrap-up video for this. Basically 3 of these books I actually read for that, and this one was the last one. Oh god, it took me forever to read this, and I'll admit, I skimmed the last quarter. I was a little bit bored, I'm not gonna lie. The first quarter, maybe half of it, I found really like interesting. I was liking Pharaoh and all that, but I didn't like Tamlin, and it had nothing to do with him, oh, you know, keeping her hostage and all that. No, what annoyed me was how uninteresting he was. He to me was very much like, I'm gonna say the name wrong, Chael, however you say it, from Throne of Glass. Just all brawn, no brain. Basically. And Farah irritated me because she went from, I hate fairies, you know, and how dare you do this, I'm never, you know, acting like she's never going to talk to them, she's just going to keep to herself, suddenly changing, you know, a 360 personality to, oh, I love him, he's the love of my life, oh, what am I going to do without him, I must save him, he's everything to me. I'm just like, it's ridiculous. I was thinking, if you really hate fairies, it doesn't matter how much that person makes you feel sorry for them, that should not change your point of view in like a few weeks. I would say it would probably take you 6 months to a year before you start being like, actually, maybe they have a point. So I don't know if I'll read I have the second book and I've heard great things about it, but if it's anything like this, the only reason why people actually like it is for the sex. I'm not even joking. If I'd known that this wasn't young adult, I might not have read it. It's not that I don't like new adult or adult books, I just find sex, like graphic sex or anything, unnecessary. Unless something major happens in it, like, there's no need for it. And it really put me off, because I was like, especially when I don't like Tamlin. If it had been her and Lucian, or her and Rhysand, fine. But I just didn't like Tamlin, and many people were complaining about, oh, how he treated her, and I'm just like, I don't really care how he treated her, I just don't like him. Like, he's just too, yeah, I mean, I know that's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I prefer the Disney version, because at least the Beast was cuddly. So, yeah. I don't know, I think it also has to do with, I used to read fairy books. I think that phase is way over. And I did find myself really liking Rhysand, and yeah, he was a cruel bastard, but he had his reasons. And I think that the characters that are mean but have their reasons, like they have mini backstories, are far more interesting than ones that act all tough but are actually really soft. Like, I'd rather them keep up the persona of being like bastards and you have a backstory to explain that than change personalities so quickly like Tamlin did. Anyway, rant over. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. I think actually it was more like 3.5 to be kind. The writing was absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with that. It was the story, okay? Sometimes it's the writing and the story I like, whereas this time it was the writing I didn't mind and the story I don't. But yeah, I tried it, people. I will try the second one. I promise I didn't buy it for nothing. maybe I like it more, as long as it's not got really erotica stuff in it. It's not really for me. Anyway, that is the end of my June wrap up video, and I'm sorry I've been ranting a lot. You know, I just anyway, if you've enjoyed this video at all, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'd love a comment down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, and or if you agree or don't agree with any of my points. Yes, I will see you soon with another video. Bye!